Good morning, everyone. I got to tell you, it is so exciting and such an honor to be able to come before you guys today and talk to you about our partnership with our sister church in Haiti. You know, we began this journey with the all-in-one family in Christ Jesus Church. We call them One Family. In 2013, we're actually going into our 12th year of ministry with this church. I know that everyone here doesn't know about One Family, so we're going to start today with a quick overview and then move into an update and kind of talk about where things are there and what's been happening in Haiti. So just to start off, at the top of this slide that you see here is the new facility in Soto, where the orphans that we've been supporting for many years are located now. And at the bottom is the older foundation in Quataboquet that many of us had visited a number of times before it became simply unsafe to do so in Haiti. So more than 1,000 people attend church at these facilities. Over 500 children go to school there, and One Family cares for over 50 orphans who, like I said, are currently at Soto, used to be at Quataboquet. So you might be wondering how all this came to be. We've got these facilities. We actually have many other churches out there. It all actually started with the purchase of an empty plot of land many years ago. It was 19 years ago, I believe, that the Quesnels were called to Haiti and bought a plot of land and began their work here. They're both native Haitians who had managed to leave Haiti and to get into the United States, and they were doing quite well. Pastor Quesnel is gifted in construction, and he started a business. He was making a lot of money. He was doing well, and God told him, come back to Haiti. And his answer initially was, maybe not. But eventually, God called him back, and believe you me, when you're in Haiti, it is hard to get out. It is harder to return. And they say again and again that the only reason that they're there is to serve the Lord. So when they moved back to Haiti, they sold everything they had. They sold his car he had here, which he has talked to me about a few times. He loved his car, and used that money to buy this plot of land. And they started sleeping in the plot of land under the tree that you see right there. And that was how the ministry started. But then God used their obedience and their willingness to come back to do a great work in Haiti. So we first met everyone at One Family 12 years ago when Westbrook was seeking a sister church to partner with in ministry. And at that time, One Family was really struggling because to maintain their school and their orphanage. Because what you see in Haiti is you see lots of kids who are abandoned. And so, you start a church. Imagine if you started a church and there are kids outside that can't eat. That kind of immediately becomes a ministry for you, right? It's like we need to do something about that. But the thing is that in order to take in those children and start an orphanage, the government in Haiti actually requires that you school them. So the government does not pay for schooling. They just say if you want to have an orphanage, if they're not being schooled, you're breaking the law. So thus they started an orphanage and immediately needed to start a school. And to support it, they actually started several businesses. They had a bakery and a number of things that they set up. And so they were working in these businesses to support these children, and it was taking everything that they had. They were just completely tapped, and they were struggling to make ends meet when we came to meet them. And after we came there, they told us, they said, we really need your help with the school and with these kids. And if possible, could you help us with scholarships for the kids and even to give them a meal a day? Because kids showing up at the school at that time, a lot of times they hadn't had anything to eat for breakfast, potentially had nothing to eat for dinner the day before, and the outlook the entire day was nothing to eat. So how well do you think they were doing in school? That doesn't leave you with a lot of focus, does it? So we took that, a number of us, but pretty heavily. We really wanted to help. We felt God was calling. We're also really nervous about doing it with this little church. But we came back, and elder group, we prayed about it, and after a time, we decided, you know what, God is calling us to do this. We're going to step forward. And so the result there, I want you to think about this. The school exploded to over 550 students. It's changed around now. There are fewer at that location due to violence, and there are now a bunch of students in the second location, but around the same number. But over this time, we have put over 500 children through school for 11 years, and we have fed them over 100,000 meals. Think about that. I mean, we're actually supporting more kids than we have members in our church. So this is a recent picture of the children having a meal at the school. And I got to tell you, it's impossible to overstate the importance of having regular meals in Haiti. You know, these kids are, generally speaking, they tend to test better than kids, you know, at the top of the areas that they're in. And with the food in their stomachs, their support, they're focusing, they're thriving there. These children are being taught to be electricians, to be mechanics. One of them, actually, since we've started, graduated and is now a pastor. So this program has been really big for the schools here, and recently Pastor Kesnell went out to Soto to meet with the staff there and to meet with the teachers, and he sent me this video, and this was just a quick video that he did, but he had gotten feedback, and he really wanted to share it with us. So I want to play that for you now. Needs sound.
Hold it all along. I wanted to share it with you. The way the community were telling them how grateful they are for the school to be in this community. Helping them with those kids, don't even know how to read. Now they are capable to do so. And then the most important things beside the food, brother, beside the school is the food, the feeding program. Brother, that was really melting my heart when I heard Junior and the director telling me how grateful their parents were, telling them how good it is for them, because sometimes the kids will come to school without food, they will come back home, there is nothing for them to eat. You can imagine. Brother, it was so hard listening. It's not something that I don't know because I've been through that when I was a little boy. But by hearing it now, I knew it's, around this community. But by hearing the parents were telling them how great, things are, for them now because of the school established in this community, well, it's really putting joy in my heart. And then I think by you listening to this video, well, that will make a good impact, in the hard work that you are doing. We really can't wait to see there is a change in this country, brother, because it's really killing us. As I told you recently, a bag of rice we used to buy for 1,000 goods. From 1,000 goods now, it's almost quadruple, meaning that 4 times of what it used to be. And it's really hard. Sometimes you do have the money in your hands, you can't even get the food. All the depots are empty.
So hopefully that gives you a sense of what they're going through there. And it is difficult to get food. The price is going up. But what I really want you to take away from that is the fact that with everything that's going on in Haiti, with all of the violence and the poverty and all of the problems, these guys, the people in the community, came forward in numbers to thank them for what's happening at this church, to thank them that their kids were able to go to school now. This was at Soto, so it's our newer school. What do you think the biggest issue that the teachers are dealing with there is? It's illiteracy, because some of these kids, all different ages, hadn't been to school. They couldn't read. So they're trying to catch up all of these kids and bring other ones forward, but they're showing up, they're getting food, and amidst all of the terrible things that have gone on in Haiti, there was just joy in this area, and that was all made possible by you. So if the story stopped there, I think we could just stop and say praise, and it'd be a great thing, right? But the fact of the matter is that, as I talked about earlier, as we really started to support their schools, they started to feel called to do other things. They had things that God had been calling them to do. They had no time. They had nothing left. So when the schools started to be much better taken care of, one of the first things they really wanted to do was to train other pastors, because another big issue in Haiti is biblical illiteracy. As I was talking to Pastor Dean about earlier, it's becoming more of an issue here in the U.S., but even in Haiti, even a lot of the pastors just didn't understand the Bible that well. They might have loved the Lord, but they didn't have that kind of education. So they started training pastors and started a sort of a seminary, and the next thing I know, he has groups of pastors coming from all across Haiti to learn the Word. And he was teaching it to them. As that program moved forward, we actually got engaged. If you look at this picture here in the very back is our pastor, John Gillespie, and he actually went out a number of times. I went out a few times and taught them, and what they're holding is actually books on systematic theology that this church bought for them. And they were so excited to have those materials and to learn, and a whole group of pastors was put through that program. And since then, every year, there are groups of pastors going through these programs and being taught. And it's a pretty incredible thing to see that happening, and to see a knowledge of the Word of God spreading throughout Haiti. So as this continued, this map is out of date. I was trying to get more locations, but they started out with one church, but as this continued, they started training these pastors, and some of the churches started saying, well, we want to be a one-family church too. And so they actually set up guidelines. They require them to prove that they have a solid understanding of Scripture and all these things. So they set up requirements, and church after church started becoming a one-family church. They've also planted several churches. So between the two of them, over these last 10 years, they've actually grown from 1 to 32 churches across Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and Chile. And so what do you think the result is of all of these churches learning the Word? It's people coming to Christ. With all of these churches, I regularly receive pictures of people being baptized in group baptisms. Wouldn't it be nice if we had group baptisms here? If we had so many people showing up that we decide, let's just get 10 or 20 of them and let's baptize them all together. Well, that's what they see here on a fairly regular basis. So I get these pictures that come out with these people who were literally practicing voodoo, who have given not all of them, but some of them, who have turned around and given their hearts to Christ and are moving forward in the church. This happened through all of these churches, which also do a number of missions trips, like one that we'll speak about in a few minutes. So that's a lot of the history. One of the other unfortunate things about Haiti is kind of where it's gone as a country over the last several years. So last year we talked about the downward slide in Haiti, and if you kind of look through here, the president was accused of embezzlement, and people really started losing faith in the government for a number of reasons. Then the UN peacekeepers left the country. And I'll tell you, when I used to go around in Haiti, you would see the Humvees going around. They were, kind of helping broadly to keep control. And then they declared mission accomplished, which it was not, and left. And as they did that, there was a huge rise in gang violence. And the gangs started to suddenly show up with heavier and heavier weaponry and literally started to take over the country. The president was assassinated. They reached a point in 2023 where they didn't even have any elected officials left. They hadn't held elections, so everyone had technically termed out. The supply lines were being cut. They started facing hunger emergencies. And then recently there have even been reports about the gangs eating people. So you look at all of this and you say, wow, am I ever going to give any positive news about the things going on here? And it's been a bit of a struggle, but I will tell you, I'm so excited today to move on to the next slide because just recently this year, Haiti has gotten a new government. And the feedback that I'm getting so far is that it's not like the last couple. The ministers are actually going through the country and they're meeting with people and they're looking at issues the different provinces have, and they're trying to reestablish, kind of the general distribution so that it's easier to get food around the country and things like that. And at the same time, the Kenyans have actually come in with a sort of a policing force. And as these things have happened, the reports that I'm getting is out in the provinces, crime is way, way down. So in a place like in Soto and places like that, crime has dropped very noticeably. It's still actually quite violent in Port-au-Prince in the capital, but eventually, hopefully, that will be taken care of as well. So, this is early on, but it's incredibly good news and hopeful. Although the one thing I will say, though, is that with all of these issues that we've seen, we have to remember that while we talk about all these bad things that happened the last number of years, in God's eyes, what I think we're seeing is, like we said a minute ago, more and more people coming to Christ. And so while the fact of the matter is that there's no new government that's going to fix Haiti, what these people need is the same thing that we need, which is to be under the Lord Jesus Christ and to follow him. And so we'll let them work on the government plan, but God is using us to work on his plan, which is a more powerful thing. So one of the things we've been wanting to do this year is to help you guys, just give you a sense of the lives of some of the people in Haiti. And so in the stand out there, you might have seen the prayer journals. We invite you to pick one up, and each one has a picture of one of the students in it so that you can pray for them. And it gives their name and a few things like that. We weren't able to get quite as many details as we wanted, but we're asking for details on kids in practically a war zone. But really hoping that people can get to praying for those kids. And also, if anyone here wants a prayer journal with a school teacher in it, or a pastor or something like that, we'd be happy to make those for you. Just let us know. But the goal is to get people here praying for people in Haiti. I will tell you, so last night, Pastor Kesnell reached out. There were hundreds of Haitians praying for this church and for today. How often do you think they pray for us? They actually come together every week to pray for us. And so I really think it's a big deal if we can pray for them. And in that regard, I'm going to talk to you for a minute about a few of the people that we've come to know. So the first one here, this is Pastor Van El. Pastor Van El actually runs the school at Croix de Bouquet, and he has really tirelessly served the children there for the last 15 years. He's also the pastor of a local church in the area there, and I personally know that he loves God and his word. We got him one of those systematic theology books, and he was so grateful and so excited. And I mean, just you could tell he was going to take that home and read it from end to end, which I'm sure he did. Over the past few years, being in that area, this is the area that we actually helped to move the kids out of, the orphans. We moved them to a country area called Soto, but he stayed. And he continued that school. The number of kids in the school dropped because people were fleeing the area. And then it started rising back up because people found there was really nowhere to go that was a lot safer or better. But he stayed there, and as he stayed there, he had to deal with a lot of issues with gangs. So Pastor Vanel has been kidnapped. He has had gangs seeking him, where he's been hiding from them. At one point, his son got so scared that he took Pastor Vanel's wife and his sister, and they just fled the area. And Pastor Vanel stayed there to keep running things, and they eventually came back, a month or so later. But imagine being so scared in your own home that your son eventually gets up and just your family flees. But he still stayed there for this mission, for these things that he believes he is called to do, which is a pretty incredible thing. So another one that we've seen several times is One Love. She's one of the orphans that we met the very first trip. So if you look at that on the top left, that was our first trip down, and she was always right there with a big smile on her face, wanted to crawl up in your arms and get to know you. She has a huge personality, and a very strong personality. And we have literally put her through school since she was a little kid. And you can see she's growing up into a young woman here. And I'll tell you, despite her situation, just the combination of the brightness of her personality and her positive outlook and her strength just gives me so much hope for kids like this. So this group is the teachers at the school in Soto. And so these were the ones that Pastor Kesnell had talked to right before he made that video as he showed up talking about the incredible impact that the school is having there. So these guys, some of them moved to Soto. I think a few of them were from there to have the chance to teach these kids. And they're trying to take kids of all ages and get them literate and then up to the right grade level, which you can imagine how big of a challenge that is. But I think these guys are up to the task and very excited to see them taking that on. But they obviously need a lot of prayer because that is asking a lot. If you imagine taking kids who have never been to school and they're 12, 15 years old, and you start them in school, I mean, that is a challenge that these guys have taken on. So this is Pastor Jackson, who leads the church at Maisad. And funny story, when I first met him, there was a group of pastors, and he is just a strong guy. He has a very strong will. He's a great leader, as best I can tell. And so the pastors were kind of staying back. He stepped forward. He asked some questions. He said some things and engaged with me. It was really interesting. And as I was getting ready to go, he said, "Remember Maisad." And I thought, he didn't talk about his son. And then eventually I realized his church is at Maisad, and so that was slightly embarrassing. But that literally burned itself into my mind because I kept thinking about his church. And we eventually visited his church, and it was a little mountain church, but it had about 40 people attending. And for these mountain churches, that's big, to have 40 people, because they're very spread out. There's agriculture and different things, and so people are having to make a bit of a trip to have 40 people in a church. A few years later, we actually had the chance as a church to help him to build a new facility, and that's what you see in those other two pictures. Those are two visits I went down while they were building, and then one when it was pretty much done. Didn't have the exterior coat on it yet there, but we had the chance to help him to build that up. And at this point, his church has about 160 members. And being up on a mountain like that, people are coming from near and far to go to this church, which is a pretty incredible thing. I think he's blessing an entire mountain in Haiti. So we've talked a little bit about this guy before, but a pretty interesting update. This is McKendy. And McKendy used to do work for the church, but that didn't pay anything. So he was also worked in construction. And so one day he was working on a building several stories up, and they were building it, and he fell off. And he fell several stories and badly broke both of his legs. And so imagine that in Haiti. But the One Family Church took him and they said, we're going to help you get better. So they took him to a hospital in Haiti, and they gave everything they had, including their blood. They don't have a lot of blood in the hospital, so they asked, like, hey, do you know anybody with your blood type? And so they did. The One Family Church literally gave their blood and gave money, and they did a surgery on him, and guess what? They botched it horribly. So he came out of that. His legs were not fixed correctly. They were infected, both legs, after the surgery. And they went through this. They tried a couple of times at the hospital, and after an entire year, now think about that. You fall and break both of your legs. In a year, it is not fixed. And so but they would not give up. So they finally took him to the Dominican Republic, to Santo Domingo, to a hospital there. And they took one look at him and they said, this is major surgery. It's actually two major surgeries, one for one leg, one for the other leg. And so they put him through the first surgery, and they were about out of gas at that point. These people don't have a lot of money. So Westbrook, you guys actually funded his second surgery on his second leg. And if you look, the third picture there, second one, you can see him recovering. The third one was when I went down and visited, and he was just working constantly in the church in Santo Domingo. So he would always be doing something. He was back there messing with the equipment, getting everything ready to go. At this point, he walks pretty well, not 100% normal, but pretty well. And if you look at the picture on the right there, he met the love of his life, and he now has a baby. So I will tell you, I've actually visited places in Haiti where people have been discarded. And you imagine somebody with both legs being broken, it's easy to give up. But they didn't give up, and he went, and instead of being someone that had to beg or do what he could just to even stay alive on the streets, he is now working full-time in the church with a family. So you think of the level of impact that one family was able to have on his family. It is incredible. And we were able to help in that. So this is a group from Quataboquet, the most dangerous place that we have people in, that I talked about earlier, where Pastor Vanel is, where he was kidnapped. And so this is quite recent. It was, I think this was taken 2 weeks ago, and it was a group of these guys getting ready to go out on a mission trip. So imagine that you're living in this dangerous part of the world, you have all of these issues, and what are your thoughts? I've got to take care of myself, got to take care of my family. I'm sure they're thinking those things, but they're also thinking, we've got to get the word out. We've got to get the gospel out to people. So what you see in their hands there that they're holding are their little booklets with the book of John in them and some insights for new believers. And at the time that this photo was taken, they were praying that they would be able to go on the trip at all. And the reason for that was because the gangs in the area were not letting people leave, because they were afraid that the Kenyans were going to come in, and they wanted as many innocent people around for protection as possible, so they were saying nobody leaves. But they prayed about that, and they did get out, and they've been on a mission trip all week, and actually last night or today, I believe there was a group baptism planned as a result of that trip. And so incredible fruit that you can see in Haiti. I'm going to try to follow up and see if I can get some pictures of that so that we can talk about it next week. One of the other big outcomes of the church is marriages. So in addition to group baptisms, they do group marriages there. This is a picture of 8 men on the right, and some of them with their families on the left there, who were all recently married. it's common for Haitians to just kind of live together and have children. As you can see, they're getting married, but they have kids in the picture, right? And this has always been a passion of one family to say, you should be married. And so one family actually has wedding clothes, they have suits, and they have dresses, and they have facilities, and they even provide receptions after the marriage. And Pastor Kesnell says we do that because then when you're talking to them, the only excuse they have left is, I don't want to follow God's will. Take it all the way out, because he had them for years saying, oh, I couldn't afford this, and I don't have a suit, and all these different things. So they took care of all of that. And they, honestly, everywhere they go, people are getting married, which is a fantastic thing. And just one of those, she is actually not the girl in the front, that's her daughter, but the woman just behind her and to the right of Pastor Kesnell is Dr. Lillian, who I've met before. She started working with one family, with medical needs, and they kind of saw that she was hurting, and so they sat her down and started talking to her. And she had actually been with a man for years, and he refused to marry her. She loved him. They had multiple children that you can see there, but he just said, no, we're not going to get married. And so Pastor Kesnell and his wife actually sat them down and counseled them and said, something's going to change here. You're not going to keep living on this way. And so he actually agreed to marry her. And so you see the smiles on those faces. These people love the Pastor Kesnell and his wife because they showed up and their parents got married, and they're all a family together now, which is a pretty incredible thing. So we see stories like this. There's been hundreds of them, of lives being changed. And it is amazing to see those kinds of big smiles in the sorts of situations a lot of these people are in. So a little bit about next steps. Many families at Westbrook have been supporting this ministry for 11 years now, which is incredible, and could not thank you more, although I know God will thank you in better ways than I ever could. As we said before, we're supporting more children than there are members in this church, which is unheard of. Over the last year, our support has been about $8,000 a month, which, if you think of the number of kids, that's about $16 a month to send a kid to school and to feed them 5 times a week. They buy food in bulk. They buy some things in as they can in the Dominican, and then bring them over, and they prepare everything themselves. But basically, the program, I would just say your dollar's never going to go further than it will go in supporting these kids in Haiti. So really hopeful that we can continue this program. And of course, we would never ask you to do anything what God calls you to do, but please do pray with your families as to whether God would have you continue or to begin to support this ministry. There are pledge cards in your bulletin today, and I think there will be one more time next week. There have been a few times. And if God does lead you to support one family, please let us know by the 13th of August, because each year we look, to say how much support is there, and then we make a commitment to that to them, and we've always been faithful to our commitment, which is incredible. And then they use that to pay teachers' salaries and do all of this planning. So it's very important to them. It's very important to us that we can just know, what level of support we'll have, so that they can plan for the year, because they never miss payroll. They never fail to take care of these things, and so it's important that they know what resources they have. So please pray about that. And please also come to the Haitian lunch next week. That's a free lunch of authentic Haitian food. And we'll talk a little more about things going on in Haiti and have a question and answer. If you don't know a lot about what's going on in Haiti, if your small group or your family wants to hear about it, I or a member of our One Family team here would be happy to come to see you and talk about some of the history and things like that. So if anyone wants to do that, please do reach out. Be very happy to do it. as pretty much always occurs, Pastor Kesnell wanted to thank this church. He says it all the time, thank the saints at Westbrook for what they do here. And we have a quick video where he did that recently.
Afternoon, Brother Tony. How are you? This is Pastor Kesnell. How is everything with you, the family, the girls? So I'm sitting here with the director and Madame Cyr, and we do have our backup here. First of all, let me let you see the director here. As you can see, he's right here. Good looking man. And here, this is our backup, Junior. And out here, it's our PEDAG director.
So that video didn't cut correctly. Not sure what happened there. My apologies. I always go in and edit those and must not have sliced it correctly. But what I'll do is I'll make sure we have that for the Haiti lunch, and we'll play that then. But I will just say in closing, things are getting difficult in the U.S., but I would just say I can't imagine a better time for us to step forward in faith and to do what we can for this ministry. God will remember the decisions that we make over the next few weeks. When you look at what God has done in Haiti over the time that he's called us to support them, it is absolutely phenomenal, and it is so far beyond anything any of us imagined. But that is what happens when we join God in his work, and it is such an incredible honor to be able to do that. And I pray for that for every one of us here, that we'd be able to see that blessing in stepping forward and seeing what God is doing and joining him in it, and then seeing the fruits of that. So one last thing I'll say, if you feel led, I talked earlier that if you want to, pick up a prayer journal on your way out, and maybe a cookie or something like that at our stand. And as I said, please come to the luncheon next week, and if you want to hear more about this ministry, please reach out. So thank you very much.